So in today's weekly Jinx video, and for those that don't know, every Wednesday we do a Jinx video with the lore, the meta, how she's doing in the meta, a certain matchup, anything to do with Jinx whatsoever. And it's decided by you, commenting in the comment section, requesting something you want to see me talk about for next week's video. As well as this video acts like a weekly discussion thread for the Jinx subreddit. Now, in today's video, I'm going to kind of be talking about the state of Jinx, so to speak. I do this about once a year, maybe once every, 6 months or so. I do one kind of to start the season, like predictions how Jinx is going to do one in the mid-season, which we're kind of heading towards, which is why I'm doing this one. And then, depending, I might do one towards the end of the season where it kind of doesn't matter, but maybe just see if we were right, the predictions were right, if she turned out the way we thought she was, where she struggled, and was it a matter of her being weak, or was it just like a build that we didn't catch on to quick enough, something like that. And so at this point in time, I'm going to be talking about the mid-season, because the mid-season's coming up, and one of the things that is getting changed are crit items, and how crit items pretty much just work in general. It's particularly the Zeal items. Affinity Edge and Essence Reaver are going to be cheaper as well, so they're going to be a faster buy. But also Zeal items are going to work a little bit differently except Phantom Dancer. Phantom Dancer is going to be kind of the same, and Runon's Hurricanes for the most part is the same. They're just taking the 15 on-hit damage from the smaller bolts and replacing it with 40% damage on the smaller bolts. So I think that would actually still be a good item on Jinx to begin with. But let's talk about Static Shiv for a second. Mainly because of Rapid Fire Cannon. Rapid Fire Cannon is the big one. It's something a lot of people used to build on Jinx in the preseason, like they kind of built on everybody, to be fair. But now what it will do is it will energize attacks 25% faster. And by energize attacks, it means it'll energize Static Shiv 25% faster. It will also energize Warlords 25% faster. And depending on what you take on Jinx, some people take Warlord's Bloodlust on Jinx. Rapid Fire Cannon will energize that faster. Now granted, you still probably don't want Rapid Fire Cannon unless you have another Zeal item already. It by itself still isn't what it used to be in the preseason, but the idea of having that, abilities like those energized 25% faster could be actually pretty good in the meta coming up with all the tanks, with the kiting you might need to do using the Warlord's movement speed, and things like that. Now generally, I don't actually think Jinx's overall build is actually going to change at all. However, the build order might change, and I say might. It might not change at all. I think you still go Hurricanes into Infinity Edge, but part of the issue was, or at least part of how I would explain it to people when they would ask, is the reason why you would get the Hurricanes before the completed Infinity Edge is because you'll probably farm faster for what's left of Infinity Edge with Hurricanes than you will with Infinity Edge farming for Hurricanes. Now, if that sounded confusing, that's because, unfortunately, sometimes I say things confusing like. So let me try and break that down like this. Pretty much, if you go back and you get a BF sword and you sit on that, Infinity Edge costs 2,300 remaining gold to get. Then, if you complete Runon's Hurricane, that costs 2,600 gold, which yes, you could have just completed the Infinity Edge and then had 300 gold left to spare, but Rapid Fire Cannon is going to help you farm waves and minions faster. So in other words, I'm talking about time. The time it takes to farm will be faster with Hurricanes to then farm an additional 2,300 gold, I should say, to get the what's left of Infinity Edge. Then in reverse, if you finish the Infinity Edge, and in Jinx's case, she does have AoE, so it won't be as long as maybe single target 80 carries like a Vayne or something, but it's just quicker to use Hurricanes to farm up faster for what's left of Infinity Edge than if you had Infinity Edge trying to farm up for Hurricanes. Not that you can't do that, but that's just the general idea when I explain it to people of why that's kind of a thing. Why people do that and why, that is how it is and how it's been. Now, with the changes coming, however, there is an argument some people are making that what you do is you kind of reverse that. You still get the BF sword, you still get completed boots, and you still get a Zeal. You just don't necessarily have to complete the Zeal item. You can actually now complete the cheaper Infinity Edge and sit on an Infinity Edge and a Zeal until you get now the Hurricanes. And it's kind of almost reminiscent to Season 5 where you would rush Infinity Edge, except that before you complete the Infinity Edge, you would complete a Zeal. Now, is that necessarily going to be the best build? I have tried it on the PBE, and honestly, I like it. don't know if I'd say it's better than what we do right now, but I don't know if what we do right now is the only option anymore because things are cheaper, which is kind of why I'm making this video, to kind of get that discussion started. For those of you that have a PvE or are listening to what I'm explaining, does this sound like it's any kind of difference? Not that it's like the new best way to build, but in terms of flexibility, like let's say you actually got something of a lead in lane, Infinity Edge is now cheaper, so you have it, and you have a Zeal. Do you go that route? Do you just finish off the Infinity Edge with the Zeal and like try and abuse the extra damage you now have and going that route and try, you know, snowball super early because things are cheaper across the board? Or do you still do the traditional build, use your lead to kind of just farm up and try and out-farm your, you know, lane opponent and go that route? That's what this video is kind of asking, kind of putting forward, and kind of like, you know, just throwing out there is, would this be the better thing to do now, or is this just a flexible option? You could do this and this now, or is it still, you know, Hurricanes with the BF sword, that route? Which isn't, like I said, it's not terrible. The idea of something new kind of excites me a little bit, something a little bit fresh, so to speak. But in general, that's what's the main changes that are happening to crit items. Obviously, with tanks coming in my opinion, tank killing aided carries are gonna be top tier pretty soon, because with the tanks coming in with the new tank items, they're gonna be what's probably the best chance of killing tanks while also just rotating across the map, taking towers and things like that. Not that casters are gonna be terrible, not that Blade of the Rune, you know, aided carries are gonna be like weak to play against versus in lane, but when it comes to team fights and stuff, depending on how many tanks are played on the enemy comp, you know, Vayne, Jinx, Caitlyn even, those are going to be the kind of carries I think people are going to have to go to bring down these tanks. And I just think that Jinx is actually in a fantastic spot to do just that. She's been set up, I should say, to, you know, be able to do that. And so the terms of state of Jinx for the mid-season, I say she's in a good state. She's in a pretty good state. Early in the season, maybe she wasn't looking so great, but after the changes to Last Whisper, after the Warlord's Bloodlust changes, after these crit, reduction in their cost becoming a thing soon, I just think that overall, that they're going to become better items to be able to use and work with. Jinx overall, like I said, what I'm saying is pretty much Jinx maybe might have been terrible earlier in the year, but recently, I think she's been at worst in the middle, where she maybe isn't top tier, but she's actually been pretty good to play and to carry with. And now, I feel like she actually could possibly be rising to top tier with the ability to kill tanks, with the ability to abuse armor penetration and crit. Even though armor penetration is getting nerfed, she still has enough attack speed to dish out enough DPS to still probably make it work. And I'm kind of just rambling at this point. There's no point really continuing the video on past here, except to go over the things just one more time to clarify. Zeal items are getting changed. Rapid Fire Cannon will energize things 25% faster, including Static Shiv and Warlord's Bloodlust. So you might see a couple people building Rapid Fire Cannon and Static Shiv, taking Warlord's Bloodlust, because that'll be energized more often. You'll be using it a lot more often. Phantom Dancer is actually staying exactly the same. Hurricanes is actually getting a change on the smaller bolts. Instead of doing 15 on-hit damage, they'll be doing 40% damage, and on champions like Jinx with AoE, that actually will work out just fine anyways. In terms of Jinx herself, I think with the tanks that are going to be coming in, she'll be able to kill these tanks, and she as a champion will be doing fine. She might have struggled early in the year, but after about the midway through towards the mid-season, she's actually slowly been getting better, and it's like an undercover, low-key, not really overpowered pick, but just good pick. Something you can carry on, something you can carry with against what enemy team comps are probably going to be picking. Because for those that don't know, just in case you possibly don't know, the tank class update is hitting next patch. And with that, we're getting things like Maokai, Sejuani, and Zac are all going to be having a lot more CC. So I guess there's one more thing I could talk about really quickly on Jinx, and it's positioning. If you want to be able to succeed with Jinx when they're kind of giving her the tools and cheaper items to do so, your positioning is going to have to be on point, because these tanks are coming in with a lot more CC than they even had already. Sejuani and Zac in particular. Maokai, I don't know how I feel about his ultimate, but he's going to be able to jungle pretty good because of the sapling change they did to him, so getting ganked by Maokai's ult won't be pretty fun. So you gotta have your wards up, you gotta have your positioning. Jinx is immobile, they will try to prey on her, so you have to be good, you have to be on it, you have to be on point with how you position in team fights, in lane, and everything. But if you do that, I think Jinx, yeah, sure, sorry, she's in a good spot. She's in a spot where you'll be able to do work with her this next patch. I'm excited for the next patch. I'm really excited for the crit changes. Not so much for the tanks, but the crit changes, the item changes, just the fact that they're cheaper, the fact that if I do well early, I feel like I can get rewarded now with cheaper items, and that's fantastic. But this is the part of the video where you can give your opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong, or maybe you just have a different opinion, maybe even the same opinion, but you have different ideas about the same opinion. So feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, specifically comment with those opinions and what you want to see me talk about for next week's Jinx video. But that's all for this video. Thank you for watching this far if you did. I don't know which video will be next, because life can be quite a mess. So until next time, take care from the Fire Godai FS, and thank you for watching.